Hello there, namaste. So I just watched the new 2025 Wolfman. All right, once again, I'm going to start it off by reading basically the description of the film. A man must protect himself and his family when they are being stalked, terrorized, and haunted by a deadly werewolf at night during a full moon. You know, I'm just going to go out and say I found this film phenomenal, primarily because of the cinematography, because there are so many Wolfman movies, and this one, what had me with it is the cinematography, the audio design, and there was something, the lighting, of course, the lighting, the way it was lit, the way they would transition from scene to scene in the same shot, from perspective to perspective. I absolutely loved it. It was so well done. So we start off with basically the main father, who's a kid at the time, being raised in Oregon by his father, who's sort of like a survivalist nut who goes out hunting, you know, for deer, for his catch, you know, for sustenance and everything. Lives off the grid type, and is training his 10-year-old son, and his 10-year-old son sees a werewolf in the distance. And his father basically tells him it was a bear. And then overhears his father talking on like a CV radio or a walkie-talkie or whatever to other hunters, basically telling them, I saw him. He's real. He's out there. We need to hunt him down and kill him. 30 years later. It skips 30 years later, and we're introduced to the character again, the father, who's, I want to say beta male, but at the same time, he kind of is. He learns what it means to protect, like, after everything. So he's kind of has a connection with his daughter. He has a really close connection to his daughter. He absolutely loves his daughter. He has his daughter go, like, do something, and I was like, oh, you can read my mind. And, like, she always is like, oh, I love, you're thinking I love my daughter. And it's like, yes, of course. It's just, it was a very heartfelt connection, but he's out of work. So he's a house husband. His wife has the big job. They're unhappy. Turns out he hasn't spoken to his father in like 20 years. They pronounced his father dead, and the deed to the house and the keys arrive there, and he's going to evict it. So what does he do? He uproots his family for like a vacation to get away, to go clean his father's house, because he's having regrets never going back to speak to his father. And I gotta say, I enjoy these films when they're short and to the point. They're concise, because there really isn't a massive cast. You see his father in the beginning, then you see the three that matter, the father, mother, daughter trio, and they have their dynamic. You get people in the background, but you don't actually have any real dialogue with them. All you hear is his wife yelling on the phone at the dinner table to her editor or whatever, because she's a journalist. There's a lot of that stuff. It's just like they're building the characters of them, of the family that matters, and I like that. It was very concise. And then they go off. They go to visit the father's house, and everything happens like immediately in that one night. And I gotta be honest, it says like in that it's like during a full moon. I did not catch it was a full moon. Not once did I catch it was a full moon. It was leading me to believe that it was more of a virus that infected them. They didn't need, you don't need silver weapons, because, I mean, being a werewolf, being heightened senses and things like that, having to find silver, melt it down into the right kind of shaped bullet, because every gun uses a different, we're not using muskets right now. We don't just need a ball that can be shoved down a barrel and then put some gunpowder in and then shoot the creature. It's not that simple anymore. It's funny I'm saying that's simple, but it's not simple. But it's, yeah, so it's just like, why do you need silver? So they're like throwing that out the window. I didn't even notice, like I said, that it was a full moon. I did not catch that once. They didn't put much emphasis on the moon, which, if it is in the description, I think they should have. Maybe they did, but I didn't see it once. But yeah, they're driving to the house, and they see someone in like a deer stalker or a deer blind, where it's like a tree house, and it happens to be one of the father's childhood acquaintances, and he's like, I'll take you to the house. He sees the someone standing in the road, turns off the road, and the whole car tips over. Yeah, and then they have to run to the house. The father gets scratched, and this is where it actually starts to develop into a really, really phenomenal film. Because the way the film starts, and I'm going to go to the very first shot. Actually, the very first shot is a black screen with nothing but audio. And then it shows you what it is, and it's a wasp being eaten alive by ants. You hear the crawling of the creatures, you hear the squealing and shouting of the insects. It's just disturbing and disgusting to hear. But I realized as the film went on, because you're dealing with the father who's been infected, and he's slowly, and they show it in the trailer, so it's not a spoiler, he's slowly starting to morph into a werewolf. And this is where it becomes absolutely phenomenal, because the way they do it is just perfect. They can show you what the father is starting to hear, what he is starting to see, what he is starting to deal with. He can't understand. He starts to lose his ability to speak because his facial and jaw and everything is starting to dislocate and change. He's growing bigger canines. He's losing all his teeth. I mean, it's absolutely phenomenal, because they'll have one scene where it's well lit. It is well lit. And as the camera spins around, the lights dim. This is why the lighting is like absolutely phenomenal. The lights dim, and then it gets to the wife and daughter, who are like sitting in pitch black darkness. They can't see him, but he sees everything, because from his perspective, it is bright, absolutely bright. But they're in absolute darkness, and it's just like, wow, there are so many scenes like that which just show you the perspective. And as we see the father transforming, we don't actually see a good look at the werewolf. And I gotta say, I absolutely enjoyed that. It's more like this fright in the background. It's more suspenseful than it is horror. I think the only real jump scare was the one they showed in the trailer, when they're in the truck. That is it. That is the only real jump scare. There were probably one or two more, but I loved it how it was more of a suspense, because they'd show you it, and then it's your heart pounding, because the werewolf can see. We see that the werewolf can see, but they can't. And I found it funny, because I guess this is what should have let me know that it was a full moon, because it is bright outside, like absolutely bright. And for some reason, instead of standing in the open where it's bright, where they can see, instinctively we're creatures that want to hide when we're panicked. They went into the darkest areas, which gave the creature all the power. But I gotta say, because the one thing I really liked is I saw the father as like a beta male, but it took him, like, getting infected and everything, to become what he needed to become to save his family. It is tragic. You kind of see a few of the twists coming. I kind of knew what was happening at the very end. I knew what was happening. When there's a fight in the house, I knew what was going on, and that wasn't all surprising, but it still hits, because they spent so much time kind of developing the regret the father had with his father, and then developing the family the father has, the attachment the father has with his daughter, the fact that he's willing to do anything to save her, to protect her, the confusing relationship he has with his wife. So there's certain instances as he's transforming where you start to see it. It's just like, oh, this is what's really going on here. And it's like, it's kind of like that ending where it's because the daughter basically says what he's thinking, because she's always been able to tell by the look in his eye what he's thinking. It was never just being cute It was because he was able to tell her through how he looked at her what he wanted. And I think that ending right there was one of the best. One of the best. And even at the very end, he still had to do everything himself. He became the man, the actual the man who needed to do all the sacrifices to protect his family. And it is tragic, because it's like, I don't see him as much as of a man as the beginning. But he's willing to do anything to protect primarily his daughter, even if he has to scare them. It's absolutely phenomenal. This film, I gotta say, the more I'm talking about it, the more I'm excited I am about it, because just for the cinematography, just for the lighting, just for the sound, I would recommend going to see it. I would recommend going to see it, because just for those alone, you get lost in it. You get lost in it. I got lost in it, because it starts off slow, but as soon as he's basically infected, everything kind of flips over, and it's like, I love it. I absolutely love it. I gotta say, 2025 seems to be starting off strong. That feels new to me. I'm not used to good movies coming out at the beginning of the year. I thought they waited for the big hypes or whatever, but heck, have been enjoying them so far. Well, 2 out of 3, but most people seem to be enjoying one of them that I didn't really care for. I just didn't know much about it. But yeah, this film is definitely worth a watch. Definitely worth a watch. There are so many Wolfman movies out there. This film has been done over and over and over again, but that doesn't change the fact that some of them can bring something new to the table. It's funny, because the first time I saw a Wolfman movie, I was like, oh, cool, a werewolf film. But it's more like a return to form werewolf form. Oh, a return to form werewolf film, not like an underworld werewolf. It's like the infection, the disease, the becoming a monster, the fact that it's originally a scary tale. And that's what I like. That's like when they make a werewolf or a Wolfman. Yeah, Wolfman. It's always a return to the basics of it. Like I guess Nosferatu going back to the basics of the vampiristic horror, which I guess the Dracula remake did as well. Absolutely worth it. I have no regrets going to watch it. Absolutely none. I'll definitely be checking it out again, because I'd love to just see how they did the shots. Try to figure out where they hung the lights up for like transitioning those shots. Yeah, with the lighting department, and freaking sound design is just perfect. Thank y'all for watching. Talk to you next time. Toodles.